Hello everyone, welcome to the last panel of this lovely agenda that we have up to today. So we will be talking about dark sky, as you can see on our lovely panel. I am Miguel Azotu, I'm a senior lighting designer and team lead here in Dubai at Malting. I'm a dark sky advocate and that's basically what led to this beautiful panel today. I shall pass down to my lovely Katya to introduce herself too.
Thank you. Hello everyone, I'm Katya Colovera. I'm a lighting designer and communication strategist, founder of Archifos, and well, the lighting police. That's why I'm here with my lighting police hat on, literally. Should I say a little bit about lighting police? Okay, yes, yeah, so you know what, yeah. So the Lighting Police is an educational project that is raising awareness to the general public about the importance of quality light in our lives. And we run events, we host night walks, we do workshops, we collaborate with Dark Sky and different organizations. I'm a Dark Sky advocate from the very beginning of my career, and I'm delighted to be in this panel with other experts representing from different aspects. Thank you, Liana, for organizing this, and I will pass it to you.
My name is Dane Sanders. I'm with Clanton & Associates in Boulder, Colorado. Nancy Clanton, our founder, is really one of the pioneering women of dark skies. She has defined a lot of dark sky standards and was one of the initial members of Dark Sky and a collaboration between the Illuminating Engineering Society and Dark Sky International. So we write a lot of standards for cities, looking at things. We do projects, design projects, from individual projects to full city scale. So we work on all different kinds of scale and policy.
Hi everyone, my name is Ian Henderson. I'm a hospitality consultant with Taurima, so I'm the only non-lighting person on the panel. My work generally focuses around supporting projects, especially around operational design. So we get hotels that guests love to be in, hotel operators love to operate, and owners love to see not only their vision coming to life, but also that they are revenue driving. And where my focus is really working as a translator. I sit between the project consulting team, the owner and the operator, and I help them understand each other. So that's sort of in a nutshell, and I'm going to be sort of bringing more an owner's perspective on behalf of owners all around the Middle East from the dark sky perspective.
Thank you so much. I think that shows you that we have a beautifully professional right here from every possible aspect that we can discuss. So thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have you all. I think the only downside to you might have seen the program is that we lost an astronomer that we had, so I will have to take a little bit from what he was going to say, just to introduce you to the whole subject. So to take it from the very base, the conversation is where have the stars gone. So in order for us to understand that, we speak from the very beginning of the terminology of what light pollution is. So light pollution basically has four typologies, as most of us designers know already. It goes from trespass to glare to the sky glow, which is the most important one, and the answer to why and where have the stars gone from the title, and to Platon. So taking that language, I want to basically pass it again back to Katya and discuss the language that you use when you educate the public through lighting police.
Thank you, Liana. I think that's a great transition because, of course, language is critical. Language is critical towards who you talk to, and all of you here today, depending on your profession, and you are talking to either the interior designer, to the lighting designer, to the architect, to the client, to the contractor, and so on. So the language plays a massive role, and it's really the critical point of if the connection is going to be there or people are going to be completely disconnected. So when we talk about, like you mentioned, glare and light trespass and flicker and many other things that we could talk about, people, like from our experience in the lighting police initiatives, we see that people, they do understand about darkness and responsible lighting. What they don't understand is confusion and those like technicalities. So I would like to ask all of you here today about, like, when you think about light pollution, And when your friends and colleagues and other people outside of the lighting industry think about light pollution, how do they feel? Because in our minds and from the discussions that we had, light pollution is quite a bit distant, it makes you feel like far away, yeah, it doesn't affect me. While noise pollution, I'm sure the people in the back, you can actually feel it a little bit of and you know how this affects you. Maybe you will have a headache later on, I hope no, but or water pollution or air pollution. You would never go to drink if you know that this is polluted waters, and you will try to protect yourself if you would be in a place where you know that the air is polluted. But what about light? Why people feel that light is something that doesn't affect you? It's good for you. So I think experience is the key, and the words that we are using, we're trying to make people feel the light, and we're going to get back to this later on.
100%. Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful pass, because through experience is how then you're doing your surveys and your studies, and you're getting the public actually to get out there and experience different scenarios without them really knowing. Is that right?
Yeah, as we're doing master plans and creating lighting ordinances, we realize it's really important to engage the public, that they understand what's going on. And you can't really talk about light without really experiencing it, without seeing it and feeling it. So we do tours with bringing people through different areas of their own city and seeing different light levels, and even walk them through different dimming levels. We take surveys, so we just ask them, what do you think? And gather that data to understand where people's opinions are. And we often find that people actually prefer lower light levels than the standard criteria. Whether it's reduced glare, or even that actually we don't need as much light as we think we need. Especially when you're adapted to darkness. When you're adapted to darkness, you can, your eyes adapt. You can see better with no glare, with low color temperatures, with different aspects. And we want to make sure that we're providing just enough light where it's needed and when it's needed. If there's nobody using the space, why do you need light?
100%. Actually, that's perfect. Thank you. Because it's exactly who we design for in particular cases and where we're designing. So, as we work with Lian on projects in Lula, that there are dark sky, and we know exactly who we're designing for, whether it's heritage, whether it's UNESCO, or just dark sky principles. How do you find the experience from the client's point of view? How do they take it? How do they experience it? And from the guests as well.
And I think that's sort of across the gamut. So if I start with the client's perspective, we've been seeing in the hospitality world a real move towards actually using the language of dark skies. So next week I've been here 20 years, and I've worked probably on about 140 hotels over that time. So in dark skies has always been a conversation around the remote properties. A lot of people don't really understand it, and they have then start to apply standardized minimums and things like that, and we use that beauty of dark skies. Where, as an example, Eliana just mentioned that we crossed paths on a project for the Royal Commission of Al-Ulam in Saudi Arabia. And they are very, very strongly engaged in defining what dark skies means for them as a region. Al-Ula itself is about the size of Belgium, and if you want to build anything within that landmass, it has to follow dark skies policy. And I think that's one of the leaders of the region of how that's actually been implemented, because it doesn't matter if you're designing a water treatment plant, a hotel, or a street, it still has to follow dark skies policy. So I think there is a real uptake now, but I think there's a massive opportunity for owners to start using that language around defining what their expectations are and their hope is for their properties. Even if it's in an urban environment, it's not harm to kind of follow an element of dark skies policy, because you are just being a good corporate citizen and there's no need to light your hotels up like Christmas trees. that sort of destroys the experience unless you're wanting a Christmas tree experience. So yeah.
Thank you for saying that out loud. Beautiful. I think then if we take it a little bit from the actual experience and when you see the faces that you see, and if we take it from each one of you, because you all have that experience, you all see the faces of people when you take them through night walks, when you take them through surveys, and when you take them through the actual site. What would you take as the main takeaway that they take, the surprise, the reaction? If we start with Katia.
So, again, everything depends on the audience, so the people that are participating. So what we're trying to do always is to create like a multidisciplinary group of people, like similar to what we're doing here, because in that way we combine like somebody from the general public, but then you also have somebody who is expert in urban space. I was in Madrid in October. We had like a night walk, and we had like somebody from the municipality. We didn't know that they were from the municipality until later when they reflected on the experience. The questions that they were asking, while people who live in the city, the landscape architect that they were there, or like, depends really on the profession. So we are seeing that people feel the light, they experience the different aspects of it, even if it's bad or good. And we're using a lot of this terminology, like also the lighting police. We're like trying to be very fun as well on the approach. Obviously, we have rules. We never blame or mentioning specific names or products or things like that. We're very respectful, but we're trying to spark conversations. And we see that people, when they, and this is what you mentioned about like the measurement of how do you feel comfortable in darkness. Like when they get to see a beautiful skin and they get to see a beautiful lighting facade, really respecting the architecture, highlighting all of this, they're like, oh wow, this is what you meant when you talked about this. Or when you see a light that is pointing towards the private residence, like entering the window, you understand like, oh no, I wouldn't like to be in this apartment because this is light trespass. Okay, now I understand. So that's my, like, we lead by example. We try to give them the idea, to empower them to see the light in a different way, to be more aware.
So you would say, have you seen any action after that? Like after that, they suddenly it clicks.
Oh yes.
And they care.
Oh yes, and then they send us messages on social media, and privately also have received many, and they say, oh Katia, you have really destroyed my experience of walking out on the streets because now I see the lights instead of just going around. So yes, there is, but it's like, it's just education and awareness, and we need to definitely connect it with studies and research and policies, which I think brings very nicely to you, Dave.
Yeah, we often, when we engage the public, we also engage the police department, the fire department, and people using the city at night all the time. And we think this is speaking about words, like dark skies doesn't necessarily mean dark places, and that is a confusing thing. As many people say, oh, we don't want it to be dark. People are afraid of the dark. It's scary. Dark is going to increase crime, and so we need real research to understand that light doesn't really reduce crime, actually. You can have bright places that still have crime. People don't look for dark places necessarily for that to happen. So multidisciplinary work is also really important. Like, it's become so technical. I think one of the surprises is, wow, there's a lot of issues going on here. That how light affects health and how light affects wildlife, from bird migrations to even your own personal health, your circadian rhythms, and that even the research that's just coming out now is very low light levels, far into like decimals of lux, right? That in your bedroom actually has a long-term health impact, and people don't know that. And we need to make sure we educate people and understand that darkness is good, darkness is something that we need biologically, and then how to use strategies that can reduce that impact on wildlife, on humans, and still create a really beautiful space.
And I think from a hospitality perspective, it's a continuation of the natural design process. So we very much start with defining the experience that we want guests to have in the space. And if you take a resort out in the middle of the desert, you want them to feel a sense of place, whether it be in the daytime when they can see everything around them, or at nighttime when they can't see a thing, and actually that's the beauty of it. They can't see a thing, other than maybe very likely not seeing stars, because that's that emotional connection that they have with that place, that will have them talking about it to their friends, that word of mouth kind of connection that hotels crave to have for people to come again to them. And to repeat visitors. There's a lot of resorts that you say, oh yeah, that's one that you'll just go to once. But if you have an emotional connection to it, you're actually drawn back to it every single time there's something special that you want to actually celebrate. And one of the things we do is we really focus down on that emotional connection and how you do it. Something that you guys have been talking about, and 2 presentations ago, the lady who was presenting was talking about the importance of darkness and using darkness to your advantage. And a number of conversations that we have had, and we worked together on a project that was in the middle of the desert, and the lighting levels were uncomfortably dark. And that was our whole theme. Will that get us the uncomfortably dark feeling we're looking for, but still safe? You've got to kind of flip it to always it's got to be safe. We don't want the buggies going off the pathways in the middle of the dark. There's got to be enough markers along the pathway that people can see their way, but they don't want to feel like it's completely laid out for them. There's a yellow brick road leading them from from their room to the restaurant. We want them to get that feel of they're under the stars, they're with their favourite person, they're having a wonderful time, and the level of darkness that they're experiencing just adds to the magic of that place. Where you flip side, if you have an urban resort or hotel, actually not being the brightest hotel on the strip is an advantage as well, because it has a little bit of mystery to it, and the impact of the light from within going out of the buildings is can be just as kind of jarring to a guest as anything. So to be able to kind of manage that expectation and really come at it from a guest perspective. And a good example is one of the resort that we've done recently. And this is something to all lighting designers who go into a sort of dark skies environment. Do not underestimate how many nighttime light tests you will have to be present for. The number of times we have just removed light fittings out of designs or taken them down. We dropped one light level of a very main light across a resort down to 2% of its capacity from a dimming perspective, just because it gave us that right feeling. So, the nighttime light tests are hugely advantageous to us. Everyone groans every time I say, right, can we schedule them in, because they know that means it's going to be up another round of them a couple of weeks later once all the changes are done.
I think we need to change some of the language from, light level and criteria to wayfinding, and making sure you can see where you're headed, but you don't necessarily need a uniform amount of light everywhere you go. How many people are lighting designers here? So there's a lot of lighting designers in the crowd. How many people have actually been out in the desert, in darkness, lit just by full moonlight? A few people. 0.1 lux. Anybody have an understanding of what you could see under full moonlight? Like, you can see the entire landscape.
It feels like you're on the moon.
Yeah.
It feels like you're on the moon, and you think you're about to hit slow motion. What are those lights that they used to have in the discos? My kids were terrified by them. But you almost feel like you can see your hand shuttering along, because that moonlight is so strong, but yet not really there.
But it takes time to adapt.
I think it's also impressive when you are in the desert. That's something that usually people don't see, especially if there's a full moon, that you suddenly get a subtle and no one is expecting to actually get a shadow created in light.
Something that you mentioned, and it's connected with Lian, and I was thinking about the adaptability that when you enter like a hotel that it's very dark, I think because also you feel more like safe. It's a different environment if we would compare it between like a hotel, which is like a protected place, versus like urban like space. Like, but people I think they are adapting much faster. It was what your example, Dane, that you were talking about the darkness levels that you are experiencing something, and then you reduced the same light like halfway, and you ask people to reflect on it again, and they couldn't really understand that wasn't like this before, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
We've when we've done these tests, like we have to do like wireless control systems to dim the light live, so you have your iPad or iPhone out, and you can dim the lights down right there. And I was sitting there with my meter because we're programming levels, and somebody else is running the iPad, and I said, okay, dim it down to 50% now. And he's messing around, he pushes some buttons, and he's kind of silent there, and we're like, well, have you done it yet? Like, what's going on? He's like, no, it's at 50%. I'm like, I didn't see a change. I looked down at my meter, and it is measuring 50% of the light. When that change happens slowly, you can't even tell. And we've done this test over and over and over with people, with the police department, and they were saying, like, we said, take the survey again. When we went back to the same place, and why are we lighting? It's weird because like we need criteria, we need to measure light.
But that's the best proof, though. When you do the actual example, that's the best proof that it was exactly the right call to reduce the light. And it's what Lian also mentioned, that you're removing some of the lights because you want to kind of establish this very dark.
Yeah, I mean, I take a roll of electrical tape to lighting tests now, so we can quickly take them over, so we don't have to have the technicians there to unplug them and things. It's just tape over them and they see what it looks like. And I think the other thing is that darkness gives a huge opportunity to different service models. So all of a sudden we have very boutique resorts around the region that all of a sudden that you have someone come with a lantern to escort you to the restaurant, or there's a lantern left in your room for you to walk yourself. Guests can actually have the light with them. It doesn't have to be permanently fixed to a building or the ground. So I think there's a huge opportunity for new approaches to light and darkness and that sort of service model, because so often we will get hotels as an operator. I've been an operator. As an operator, we'll get hotels that aren't quite what we need, but we'll work out ways around it from a service perspective, and you can do that with light as well.
How important are lighting controls in your realm?
Massively, absolutely massively. If we can't control the light, and especially when you get 3-star, you hope for the best because they can't afford a lot of lighting controls, and they really have to pay attention to the light fittings that are being specified. And I was going to sort of say this at the end, but I'll say this now. Then one of the big things for owners, and I always say to them, is please don't let the contractors substitute other light fittings for the ones specified without really rigorously checking that it's going to be the same thing. Because if you can't have the same level of control over that light fitting that they've put in as a substitute, it can really throw out your lighting levels. And guests can walk into a room and say they don't like it, they don't really enjoy it. That there's something about it, but they can't put it in. And it could be that the fabric on the chairs are really uncomfortable, or the bed is really uncomfortable, or that the lighting is just really odd. Or, my favourite for a guest room is they have to spend 2 minutes trying to find the light switch. But, guests understand, that something doesn't feel right. And if you know that you can control the light levels and you start getting funny feedback about that, and the hotel team are fully trained, I've worked on projects where for 18 months we have just tweaked lights. Every time I've done a site visit once a month, they'll say, people are not happy about this area. I said, right, let's go and have a look at the lighting. I'll go and play with it. And then the engineer gets on and he plays for it and things like that. So to have good, straightforward, easy to use lighting controls is massive.
Training is definitely one of the biggest points. Like after commissioning training, the staff to be able to use whatever designer set, 100%. But I think another point between standards and clients, because sometimes we don't have so open clients, let's say, so from a design point of view, I would say, what kind of language would you say, and at what stage would it be best to kind of communicate it to a client that we want to be mindful, if not necessarily going for a dark sky certification per se, but at least to advocate it and aim for it, to pass down that language, because usually clients are very demanding of the standards, but they're outdated and they're basically double the light that we really need.
Well, from my perspective, it's right at the very beginning because you're setting the emotion that you want the guests to feel when they're in the hotel, and you get the owner's buy-in, and then you work with the design team to say, well, how are we going to actually communicate that across all the designers? So often we will make sure that in the very briefing documents there are mood boards around lighting and inspiration with often benchmark properties that are well known for whether they're dark skies or they achieve the emotion we're trying to achieve, because that's a massive tool for communication, because owners can go and visit those resorts or hotels and they can actually, that felt good. Yeah, that's the type of feeling. I can understand that because I did a hotel many years ago. We didn't have any of them in the region, so we took them to Shanghai to one of the best examples and got them to experience every single space in the hotel, even down to the staff facilities. We took them for lunch one day to the staff restaurant so they could see what it felt like to be a staff member. And it's exactly that. You want them to kind of get the feeling of where they want to go.
Thank you. And then when we go, I'm going to close with, I'm going to ask you one, and then I'm going to do one final question, no problem, so then we can have some questions if you want from the room. Regarding the standards, because you're working with the authorities, so how do you translate the data to become something more solid into principles that we can then use as the standards the same?
Yeah, this whole engagement process is really important. We have to first listen, because when you don't listen first, you don't gain trust. And gaining trust with the general public to gaining trust with the city officials is really important. And so, and then having that visual experience together, so we can all have that same visual experience to refer to, and gathering the data while you do that, so that you don't tell them light levels, just ask them their opinions, and then you tell them light levels later, and they're often very surprised that it's actually lower, and they're like, oh, well, if I felt that good then, maybe we don't need the same standard. We've done that with many clients across many cities, so it is successful.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Would you like to add anything, or should I go ahead with my final question?
I think from my perspective, what I really like in the connection of the discussion is the awareness, the experience, and feeling the light. Is from where it started, that we start talking about light pollution and glare, and all of this, it has to do about how people really feel the light. And for me, I think that's what everyone needs to remember out of this discussion, that is about communication, is about translating the language to the standards and to what is the audience, the guests, what do we want them to experience. And I think it's very, we have a lot of work to do. We need to raise awareness. We all have the responsibility to find these connections and be the bridge and use the right language to make people understand why dark skies is not just dark space. It's like, it's important. It's important for them.
It's exactly what we said 2 presentations ago, that darkness is actually a friend, and it says things like it's also a health issue, it's also a nature issue, so it connects everything.
And I would say to the designers here, get to know an ecologist, get to know an astronomer who you can bring onto the teams and they will help educate your clients also from their perspective. We understand how light affects people, but when you start talking about the birds and the bees and the pollinators and other things like that, it gets to be another language. And we are getting challenged with others, ecologists and astronomers in the community becoming very educated to say, we need to push harder, and we need to understand that language also.
Thank you so much. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go with my final question. So what would you change if you could change one thing tomorrow to reduce light pollution? What would it be? So I'm going to go with you again.
Okay, so I will change the way that we talk about light. That's it. Like if
To the point.
Yeah, like if we could change something, the way that we talk, I really believe that if we educate people to see the light in the way that we do, better questions are gonna follow. And if better questions are gonna follow, it means better actions from the community. And I'm not talking only about the lighting designers who know how we're gonna use these principles and how we're gonna reach to the goals of the client. But I'm talking about also the manufacturers, who they're going to take responsibility to not have lights that they are glary, to not have lights that they are spilling light, like up lights. That, I think if the general public, the clients, really start asking the right questions because they understand what we are talking about, everything is going to change. So how we talk about light pollution, this is what I would change. Yes.
Thank you, Kate.
Mine sounds quite simple.
Okay.
Let's define light pollution as real pollution. The Environmental Protection Agency to define it as pollution. The UN to define it as pollution, so we can regulate it. One of the beautiful things about light pollution is that it's the only type of pollution you can get rid of immediately.
Yeah.
And I think I'll leave all of you, because most of you are with lighting consultant agencies, I'll leave you with something you can actually go home and think about tonight and then go into your practices tomorrow, is work together to educate your clients and help them give you the best brief that they can give you. Because they don't know the language. They don't necessarily know what emotions they're looking for in their, for their guests, and work with the broader design teams. And that's a big education piece across the board. So go and talk with your younger members of staff and help them start understanding that. And through that, the older members of staff will get much keener in the way that they work with their clients to really boil down that briefing.
Thank you. I think that was very bold and very insightful for what it has been really an honor to have you all here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eliana.
It's been my pleasure. We do have, I think, about 5 minutes for any questions.
Great. Questions? Yes, please.
First of all, it was very exciting. I would like to add a comment which is a little bit higher preview of light. In my opinion, controlling the light is controlling the life. This is something that we need to see from higher ground and not only from the perspective of light pollution, because light pollution is only part of controlling light, but it's much higher vision to see the spectrum of the light, the control of the spectrum, to mimicking the sun, because eventually the sun was before the technology that we are using today, and we are biologically committed to the sun effective on human life. So as long as we are understanding the creation of the earth, the people, the biological, and we are mimicking it, we are trying to get near it as much as possible, in my opinion, this is the right way to think about light,
Well, and
to be illuminated.
right, so we, a number of years ago, before we had the research of the, spectrum that humans and the wildlife are sensitive to. we thought, well, maybe matching moonlight would be the right thing, and the 4,000 Kelvin would be the right thing. And then realized that that moon is a cue for migration and for other things, and it's confusing the animals. It's confusing them, and so matching natural. What is the natural spectrum? So it's firelight is what we are used to at night, right? It's not the sun. And yes, the moon, our visual performance and our nighttime vision is tuned to moonlight, but our circadian rhythm is tuned to firelight.
Exactly. And also, you should take in consideration, when we moved to LED, we lost the IR. And the IR is the most important thing to push forward the melatonin. So actually, that's why we need candles. So people forget about this. This is why we feel so well near candles. So you need to take in consideration that not only efficiency is the correct approach to correct light.
If you're going to be in the United States, in Denver, Colorado, for the Illuminating Engineering Society's annual conference this year, Lisa Heshong is putting on a symposium of light and health. And there is more things we're learning about near infrared and UV light and the importance of that for our health also.
Thank you all. I think that there's a point that sometimes we need to communicate to the community and to communicate to people at some point, is that we need to go way back and redefine the function of the night for every one of us. So night is there for us to unwind, to relax, to slow things down. Unfortunately, what is happening in our lifestyle, night is completely has shifted the function, and this is where people are trying to resort to lighting more so that they can carry on the activities that they're doing during the day throughout the night and prolong the functioning hours. So at some point, there's we need to pause and think and reflect why we have a day and the night. And this is somehow when we come to this point, we really realize that no, we need to at some point stop, slow down, turn it off, tune it down, tune our rhythm. And this is where sometimes things will sometimes fall into places. Thank you.
I want to ask you a technical question, very quick question to anyone who wants to answer. What's your favorite dark or dark sky-friendly space anywhere in the world?
Alula.
I am a little bit partial to Ola. I have been lucky enough to be a consultant for them since they started. You can go into the middle of the desert and see nothing other than the stars. We designed one of the resorts that we worked on with Eliana to be able to actually host gala dinners under the stars adjacent to the buildings of the hotels. So you don't have to go very far to see the stars. But yeah, definitely. The second one is my parents' farm in New Zealand. You can see the stars from there and it's stunning.
Okay, for me, it was the first moment when I saw really what is made like the Milky Way. And it's a Greek island near Santorini. It's called Amalfi. Anafi, sorry, Amalfi. I think I want yeah, Anafi. Yes, Anafi. And we had like kind of like a trekking experience going up to a monastery where we slept. We had like I see some Greeks here, so I think you can relate to that if you know about Anafi. And I didn't want to sleep because I was just laying there and I could see the stars, and I was feeling that the stars are coming down to eat me. I don't know how to explain. And that moment, really, I have never felt that before. I haven't been to Alula yet, and really, I'm dreaming to experience this again. Having this feeling that you don't want to close your eyes because it's magic what you see. Thank you for the question. It was nice.
So mine is in the deserts of Utah. So right in front of the San Rafael Swell is this beautiful area that looks very much like some of these areas of Saudi Arabia that I'm seeing here while I'm here, with slot canyons that are just amazing. But one night we were camping out. It was a full moon. Could see from horizon to horizon the entire landscape. And then there was a full lunar eclipse. And the Hale-Bopp comet was glowing in the sky, and the stars came out, and the Milky Way came out, and then the moon came back. That was just my most amazing dark sky experience. And from a design standpoint, we had the opportunity to do the lighting for the dark sky tour at the Grand Canyon. So the entire parking lot, I mean, it's very low level, mostly small bollards, amber filtered LED. You never get a direct view to an LED, to a light source, and it's really about wayfinding. But that we can dim the lights down on a dolly system, turn them entirely off, get everybody completely dark adapted, and then with an iPad turn them back on to guide people back to the visitor center.
I'm so sorry. Yes, I'm so sorry. I think we ran out of time. But thank you all. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I think that's enough.
Okay, how about a round of applause? Great discussion. We're going to do a picture for you.